You're very welcome to section 8 of this course. Up to now, you've done market research, you've created your own website, you've put email capture forms on your website, you've done copywriting, but there's one thing that's missing, and that is visitors. And that's why in this section of the course, we are going to focus on search engine optimization. Very simply, search engine optimization is a way to get visitors from these search engines like Google to your website. The way that you are going to achieve that is by using this SEO checklist that I put together for you. It's got 26 points on it, and essentially in this section of the course, the outcome for you, what you will have achieved by the end of this section of the course, is really completing each of the 26 points on this checklist, and essentially that will help you get targeted traffic from the search engines to come to your website. I want you to get your hands on this checklist right now, so I've linked it up in the resources section of this lecture. Go ahead now, get that, bookmark that, because we're going to be returning to this again and again. And it's got a recap of everything that I'm explaining for you in these lectures. It's got a link to all of the tools that I mentioned. And not only that, am I just giving you this, I'm actually going to be giving you an example on performing all of these steps for my own website here, so that you can really see a tangible real life example of someone implementing all of these steps and the reasons behind doing that, the importance. And I think that's going to give you a fantastic tangible example to follow. So I really look forward to getting stuck into all of this with you. You can see that the checklist is broken up to a number of different sections. There's technical stuff, making sure that people can access your website, keyword research, finding out what your customers are searching for online, creating perfectly optimized SEO content, and then building authority around that content so you can appear at the top of these search results. Now don't worry, I'm going to explain SEO in a lot more detail in the next lecture. So for now, just make sure you've got this checklist, you bookmarked it, and then the next lecture, I'll see you there for an overview of SEO. Now that you're clear on the project for this section of the course, in this lecture I'm going to answer 4 questions you probably have in your mind to give you a very good overview of SEO. So the first one is, are search engines an important source of traffic? Is SEO worth really you investing time to learn about? Number 2, why is traffic from the search engines so valuable, even more valuable than traffic coming from Facebook? Number 3, how do search engines actually work? How can you understand the game so you can really win it? Number 4, what are the click-through rates for those search results in Google? Now, as I answer all of these questions, I think it's going to give you a very good understanding of SEO back to front. I'm going to give you a couple of exercises to do in this lecture. Also got plenty of examples, so I think you're really going to enjoy it. So let's get started with question number 1. Are search engines an important source of traffic? One of the best ways to determine how important search engines are going to be for your business is to look at how important it is for your competitors. And you can do that very easily by coming and looking on this tool, similarwebs.com. It's on our marketing tools list. And all you need to do is put in your competitors' URL here. So to give you an example that we can maybe all relate to, I'll come to udemy.com, pop that in there, get this report that comes up, but really the section that I'm most interested in is this part here, traffic sources. And I can see here that Udemy as a website as a whole gets 27% of their traffic from the search engines. So a third of their visitors come through the search engines. It's a massive part of their business. And so if your competitor has something similar to that, well, you can say, well, if it's 30% of their business, well, it's probably going to be 30% or more of my business. So this is worth me looking at. Now, if you're wondering how do visitors actually come to Udemy through the search engines, let me give you a quick example to bring this to life. So let's say students are looking for a Facebook ads course. The top result here is a Udemy course, and they really come through the search engines here and head on into the Udemy site. Now, another way to determine if the search engines are going to be an important source of traffic for your business is to really see how often you use the search engines yourself. And this is easier to figure out than you might think. Just come across to the history here. of your browser, and you can do this on any browser that you're using. And what you're going to see here is a list of all the websites that you visited. And you can see for me, there's a huge amount of websites. Now I want to narrow that down and get to just see the number of times that I've gone to Google, and specifically google.ie because I'm based in Ireland, to really find solutions to my problems. And you can see here that there's just a massive amount. I go to Google, I don't know, maybe 50, 100 times a day to search for things, to get answers to questions that I have. So if you're not sure if, Google can be an important source of traffic, we'll come in here and look at how often you actually use it to find and be brought to other websites, and that might change your mind. Now on to question number 2, why is traffic from the search engines so valuable? And I'm going to highlight this using an example. So traffic coming from Google is very valuable for 3 particular reasons, and it all boils down to the reason that people use Google and the search engines in the first place. So as an example, let's say I type in best desktop microphone. Now this seems so simple, but it's very, very different right from the start. I've come to Google because I've got a problem. I don't know what the best desktop microphone is. I want to buy one. So I'm coming to Google to really get a solution to my problem. Not only that I'm actively looking for a solution, but I'm very specific in what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the best desktop microphone. And finally, I'm looking for it right now. So those 3 factors, that I'm actively looking for it, that I'm very specifically looking for something, and I want it right now, makes these search engines a very valuable source of traffic. Because if I'm the first result here and you can solve my problem, then there's a very good chance that I'm going to become a customer or sign up to your email list or whatever the call to action is. Now think about it, and I think that can highlight the value by really comparing it to something else. So if I come to Facebook, I'm doing none of those 3 things. I'm not actively looking for anything. I'm here to just kind of, look at my friend's stuff. I'm not specifically looking for anything. I'm kind of browsing, and now might not be the right time for me. So I could see an article here about the best desktop microphone, but maybe it's the weekend. Maybe I'm not interested in it right now. So in terms of targeting visitors, these search engines can be extremely valuable in terms of the source of traffic, and I hope that example brought it to life for you. Now on to question 3, how do the search engines actually work? If we return to our example, you might be wondering, why did this Lifehacker article get to the top of the search results, and these ones down here are at the bottom of page 1, and all of these ones back here are on page 5. So what's really the difference? Why is Google organizing the search results in this way? Well, there are 2 key factors. The first thing is relevance. So it's absolutely no coincidence that I've searched for the best desktop microphone, and Google is trying to give me the most relevant search results. So you can see in the title of this web page, it says best desktop microphones. It's in the URL of the web page, and you can see here it's in the body, that really on the content as well. So that is no coincidence. Google is matching up the most relevant search results. And also you can see, in contrast, if we move further down the page, it says top 10 USB microphones. Now I didn't search for a USB microphone, I searched for a best desktop microphone. But if I change this, you'll see that these search results automatically change based on the relevance. So you can see here this Lifehacker thing now is down at number 6 or 7. So relevance is a key factor that really determines how those search results appear. Now, relevance is not the only factor. It's not just good enough to have a relevant post to get to the top of the search results. You also need to have authority. Google really wants to put the best content at the top so its users are happy and keep coming back to Google. And so the way that Google determines authority is through links, or also known as backlinks. And this is a big part of SEO. So you might be wondering, what is a link and why is it a good measure of authority? Well, I have found a link to this first article here on Google, and I'll show you how this kind of works in practice. So this is a blog post. It's about a guy talking about voiceovers. He goes through the process, etc., explains it all, and at the very end he talks about equipment. So he's saying to his audience, look, this is the equipment you need to carry out this process. And instead of him rehashing everything, he says, look, you can get these good microphones for less than 100. Lifehacker has a nice roundup. Here's a link to their post, and you can see this opens up on the same post here. So he's referencing this article. He's saying this is a good source of information. You should go check that out. Now Google really looks at these links and they say, well, if this guy plus maybe 50 other guys are linking to it, well, then it must be a good source of information for that particular topic. So as a result, they rank you a lot higher in these search results. To recap on that point then, relevance and authority are the key factors to get into the top of the search results, and that authority is really determined by the number of links that you have, the number of people referencing your content. Now the final point is about click-through rates, and this is a very quick point that I want you to understand. So you might be wondering, what are click-through rates? Why are they important? Well, click-through rates, it's very simple. It's really the percentage of people who search for a term and really how many people actually click through to the first result as opposed to clicking through to, say, the fifth result. And you might have heard about SEO. Everyone talks about I need to rank number one. Why are people obsessed with that? Well, the reason is that the first result here gets a disproportionate amount of the clicks. So I've put through a quick example here. Now these are just estimates. The figures might be exact, but at a high level, it's true. So 31% of the people who search for a term will click on the first result. 14% second results, etc. You can see the split there that goes down. Position 6 to 10 is about 3%. So 70% of all the clicks will go to the first 10 results here on the first page of Google. So this is really where you want to be, and even more so if you can get to the top spot. That is extremely valuable place to be. Page 2, there are some clicks that will go there, but after that there's really nothing there. So it's important that you understand this from the start. Where you want to be is really in the top spot, because that is where a lot of the traffic will go, and that's really how you can get a huge amount of visitors to your website. So that concludes our overview of SEO. I think we packed a huge amount in there to a short lecture, and if you're not sure about some things, don't worry. I think a lot of it will fall into place a little bit later on as we actually implement and start to optimize our websites. But to recap, our search engine's an important source of traffic. For most businesses, it's going to be extremely important. We saw for Udemy it was 30%. You can use SimilarWeb to check it for competitors. You can also see how often you use the search engines by looking at your history. Point number 2 then, why is traffic from the search engine so valuable? Well, we saw even compared to Facebook that people use Google and the search engines with a specific purpose. They're actively searching for a solution to their problem. They're very specific about what they want, and they're looking for it right now. So if you can get your solution in front of them at that exact moment, you're going to get a much better chance of getting a sale, a sign up, etc. Point number 3, how do search engines work? Relevance and authority were the key factors that determine that. And finally, those click-through rates, we saw the breakdown, really the number one spot being where it's at. Now that you have a great overview of SEO, in the next lecture, let's look at how we measure SEO success. In the last lecture, you got a great overview of SEO, and in this lecture, you're going to learn how to measure SEO success, looking at 5 different metrics and using 2 free tools. I've actually got the tools and the metrics listed here on the first point of our SEO checklist. So we're going to start off in Google Analytics, and we've set this up earlier in the course already. I'm going to be giving you this dashboard here that you can see later on in the Google Analytics section of this course. But essentially, I just want to show you now what SEO success might look like and how you would actually measure it and the metrics that you would use. I don't expect you to see this within a week or even a couple of weeks. SEO takes a while to really get working and for you to really achieve and get visitors from your search results. But I want to show you what the end of the process should look like right at the start, so you really know what you're working towards and the metrics that you should be looking at. So let us start off. I've got the metrics listed out here. Website traffic. How would you calculate and see this in Google Analytics? The website traffic just coming from the search engines. Well, I can see here I've got a breakdown of my traffic sources by the different mediums, essentially the different marketing channels. And I can see that from Google Organic here, it represents 23% of my website traffic over the last 30 days. This is by default set to the last 30 days. So that's 506 sessions in total. So you can see that using Google Analytics, it's very easy for me to see how much search engines are contributing in terms of visitors to my website. And that's a great percentage, and you can see that's pretty big. For other more established sites, it could be a lot bigger. It could be 30, 40, 50, 60%. It really depends on the effort and time that you put into it. Now let us move on to the second SEO metric that you should look at to measure your success, and that is conversions. So not only do we want to see how much traffic the search engines are bringing us, but we also want to see how much of that traffic is actually converting, is actually completing a goal that we've set up. And earlier in the course, you can remember that the goal that we set up was to get people to subscribe to our email list. Now in this particular website, the goal is slightly different. It's to get them to actually enroll and make a purchase. And you can see that here using this little chart, which you'll be getting later in the Google Analytics section of the course. I can see that organic, the channel, has contributed 8 goal completions, which represents 1.56% of my total goal completions. So I can see very easily how that is performing relative to other marketing channels. Now the last metric you might want to look at in Google Analytics to measure your SEO success is revenue. Now I haven't actually assigned a revenue value within Google Analytics, but that is something else that you can also measure if you've technically got that linked up. If you've got a checkout in your website, you can measure all of that. So you can really see not only the number of visitors, the percentage of conversions, but actually the dollar amounts that's coming through from these search engines. So we looked at the first 3 metrics there. If we want to look at 2 other important SEO metrics, we can use a tool like Ahrefs. Now there's a lot of similar tools, but I'm just going to use this one as an example. And the key things that we want to look at here are your actually search position for a particular keyword, and also the number of links that you have achieved, because remember, that's a very important part of ranking in the search engine. So we're in Ahrefs here. This is a premium tool, although I'm using the free version here, and you can see it gives you a huge amount of information. So what I can see up here is the number of backlinks, the number of links that I have to my site, and I can see the growth of that in this chart here. So this is something very simple, but a key metric. Are you increasing your backlinks over time? That's really going to help you increase your authority and help you rank higher in the search results. The other metric that you might want to look at is your position for certain keywords. So if I scroll down, I can see here we go, top 5 organic keywords. So these are really my search position for these keywords, and you can see for a lot of these here I'm ranking on the first page, which is fantastic. Now if I go in to view the full report here, I can get a little bit more information on it, and so you can see, for example, that I'm up 9 positions for this particular keyword. I'm up 9 positions for this particular keyword as well. I can see the search volume for all of these keywords and my position here and the estimated traffic, etc. So this is a fantastic tool to really measure these 2 key metrics, which are keyword ranking and the number of links And you can see here that you can get quite a lot of information for free, but you have to upgrade then if you want to see the full list and more information. So I would recommend that if you have a website that's been up and running for a while, you can plug this in right here now. If you've got a brand new website, you're probably going to see no information here because you have no traffic on your site, or this tool hasn't picked it up. So let me type in my brand new site here, and what I'm expecting to see is no data. So there's no traffic on my site, I've got no backlinks, I've got nothing set up. So this is what you can expect to see at the start. And just remember that this is a third-party tool. This is not Google. They don't have direct access to your website. So they can pick up a lot of information, but it's not instant. So just keep that in mind as well. So to recap then, what we have talked about in this lecture is the 5 key metrics to measure your SEO success. There are 2 free tools to do that with. The information is there if you want to click through and remember the things to look for. And in the next lecture then, I'm actually going to show you how to optimize your homepage for the search engines. I'll see you there. This is something very quick we can do and get a real result very quickly. In the last lecture, you learned how to measure SEO success, and I showed you the tools and metrics to really focus on there. In this lecture, you are going to learn how to optimize your homepage for the search engines. What I'm really talking about here is when somebody types in your brand name or company name into Google, you essentially want the title of your homepage to look good, to represent your business, and also to have a good description of your business here that really entices people to click through. Now, optimizing your homepage alone is not going to get you a lot of traffic from the search engines, because people really have to be searching for your business in order for you to appear here. And if you're a brand new business like my one here, there's not a lot of people know who I am. They don't know this particular course, so they're not going to be searching for it. However, that being said, it's great to get this set up now right at the start. It's very easy to do, and I make sure that at least we're appearing at the top result of the search results for our brand name. Really, the bulk of the SEO work that we're going to be doing in this course is not optimizing around our brand name, but it's actually finding those keywords that our customers are searching for online, putting ourselves at the top of the search results to answer the questions that they have, and that's how they really become aware of our business. However, let us start with the homepage. Let's start with something simple, a quick win that we can achieve in a couple of minutes. So what I suggest you do is type in your domain name, so your .com, here into the search bar of Google. Don't type it in to the this up here, because that'll just bring you straight to your website. You want to type it into the search bar, and what you should be seeing here are the pages on your website that Google has picked up. So I can see here that Google's picked up my homepage and a number of other pages as well, and I can see the title of the page here, and I can see the description of the page. So I've already optimized these, that's why they're appearing like this. What it might be appearing like for you right now is just saying something like welcome, something like home, and the description here might be the first couple of sentences from your home page. So this is really the part that we want to optimize. I suggest you go ahead right now, put that in, even pause the lecture and do this to see what it looks like for you. Once you've got that done, now let us move on to actually optimizing this. And if you've got a WordPress site, now is the time that I'm going to show you how to download this Yoast SEO plugin, because it can help us with a lot of the things we're going to do later in this course, starting with this particular task. So what I'm going to do is actually go ahead and download that plugin right now. Come into my WordPress dashboard. I'm going to add new here. And then I'm really going to search for the name of the plugin in the search bar, so Yoast SEO. Now don't worry if you don't have a WordPress site. I think seeing the process, seeing the best practices, you can really apply them to whatever type of site you have. Once that has found, I'm just going to install that there. And this will just take a couple of seconds. I need to then click to activate the plugin. And it's very simple to use. I can get using this pretty much straight away. So you can see now that it is appearing in the sidebar of my WordPress dashboard. But really the best place to use this is I can come into my home page. That's really the page that I want to optimize here. And let's see, come to my home page. And right at the bottom of the home page now, this plugin will appear. So this is really what we want to optimize, the title here and the meta description. This is what appears in the search results here, the title of the page and the meta description. And essentially the formula for writing a good title, let's start with that, is to really include your brand name plus some keywords that represent your business. So I think the best way that you can really achieve this is to look at some examples. I'll just show you an example here. Here we go. This is a blog. It's called Backlinko. And you can see for his homepage here, he's got his brand name, Backlinko, plus some of the keywords that represents what he does, what his website is really about. We can look at Udemy here. Let me just look at Udemy. So once again, just typing the brand name or the .com into the search bar, you can see they've started with the brand name, Udemy, and then online courses anytime, anywhere. It represents what their business is about, includes keywords, online courses that people might be searching for online. If you've got a local business, you might also want to include your location here as well. But that is the simple formula. It's just brand name plus the keywords. So what I'm going to do is actually type in my title here. So what I've done is actually my title kind of contains my keywords as well. So the complete digital marketing course is kind of the keyword that I really want to show what my business is about, and the complete digital marketing course is kind of the brand name for that, and a little sneak peek into what people are really going to achieve. Now the second thing here you want to include is the meta description, and this is just essentially a snippet from your page that appears here in the search results. Now Google will pull this automatically, but you can set this yourself. So what I would recommend is that you start with a verb. You got to give people kind of a sense of what is the outcome for them, what are they going to achieve, what is the benefit. So learn a systematic approach. Let's have a look at some of these other examples. It's time to get the backlinks that make a difference. So he's showing you that the outcome of his site is really that you're going to get the backlinks that make the difference. That's really the outcome for you. Now also here, Udemy is an online limited list. Okay, so it's kind of a little bit more descriptive, which is fine as well. But essentially, I would encourage you to look at some competitors, look at other blogs or platforms that you look at, and try to emulate them. I think the key thing is really including some outcomes, or if here, some real credibility indicators that this is the online education marketplace, the place to be to educate yourself. So that is very simply it. You just need to fill out the title and meta description. I would have a look at some other competitors to get that done. And if you're not using WordPress, you're going to have something very similar. It'll call it page title and it'll call it description. It doesn't really matter what website builder you're using. You're going to have the option to put this in there. Now, one final thing to note is that once you update this, don't expect it to appear in the search results instantaneously. Google may only check back to your page every couple of days and maybe a week at the maximum to see if anything's changed. So that's the kind of time frame to expect these changes to come through. Now that is very simply how to optimize your homepage for the search results. It's really just for people searching for your brand name. Over the next few lectures, what we're going to do, in the last lecture you learned how to optimize your homepage for the search results. And in this lecture, we are going to be carrying out point 3 of our 26-point checklist, which is really to verify your site in the Google Search Console. Now this is part of our technical part of our SEO checklist, and you can see that I've got a link to the tool here which you can click straight open now, and it opens up this page. And really what this tool is for is to track your site's performance with Google. I've listed out here some of the things and reports that you can really use this tool for, so you can check how the search engines view your site. There's reports about indexing status, so have Google found all the pages on your website. You can see the search queries that you're appearing in the search results for. And you can also see these crawl errors, so if Google can access any of your pages, and also any penalties that you might have against your website. So it is a little bit of a technical tool, and if you don't want to get into all of this stuff, don't worry, you don't really need to. I think the key thing is to actually just get it set up and get it collecting data. You can always review this stuff later on in a lot more detail. I've also included this little guide here which explains it in a lot more detail, and perhaps you can use this going forward as well. So the first thing that you really want to do is click this button. Let's open this up again, and you'll want to go sign in. Essentially you can just sign in once you've got your Google account set up, and the next thing that you want to do is add your property. So you want to type in the So just type in your domain name and then click add. And what we need to do now is actually verify our ownership of the website so that we can start collecting data from it and bring it into this tool. So you can see that we have a number of different options. There is really to download a file, or there's some alternative methods here that might be a little easier to implement. Because I've got Google Analytics already set up, I'm just going to click this option and then click verify. So I can see that this has been successfully verified, and I'm just going to click control or continue to really come through to the Google Search Console. Now inside the tool we don't have any data available yet. You can see this here, and if you're wondering why, well really it takes some time for the Search Console to gather data and process it for your site. So this is maybe something that you want to come back to after a couple of weeks, and really what you can do is come in and perhaps look at search traffic, look at links to your site, the internal links. Also you can look at some of the indexing reports here, the indexing status. Also if there's any of those crawl errors or reports, they're going to show up here. And there's other things you can do in here, like set your search appearance. So for example, like Udemy I've done here, if for the home page you wanted to have links off to the most popular parts of your course, you can set that up in here. The most important thing to really do right now is just to get it set up and get it collecting data. And as I've shown you here, you can really come back and look at this report later, and in particular focus on these reports once that data is collected. So that's it. Verifying your site in Google Search Console is very simple. The next thing we're going to do is really look start ticking off these points on our technical SEO checklist, starting in the next lecture with really verifying your website in the Google Search Console. I'm going to show you how to do that and also why it's important. In the last lecture, you learned how to improve website performance and speed. And in this lecture, we're going to cover the final point in the technical part of our SEO checklist, and that is really to take the Google Mobile Friendly test. So you can see that I've got it linked up here, and it's going to be very quick and easy to take this test. Now before we get into this, let's look at why this is even important. Well, your site should really deliver a great user experience across all devices. And now that a lot of people search on their mobile devices, for some sites that can be 30, 40, 50%. If you don't have a site that's mobile friendly, you could be missing out on a massive part of your business. As well as it being important for user experience, it's actually now part of Google's algorithm. And really, Google's algorithm will favor mobile-friendly sites. So what Google is essentially favoring are websites that look like this, that it's when you click through on a mobile device, it's easy to use, etc. That you don't need to tap, zoom, etc. and have an experience like this, because ultimately Google wants its users to have a great experience. And if Google is sending people to websites like this, then it's going to be a bad experience for users. So that is why Google is putting pressure on website owners to have mobile friendly sites, because all around it just delivers a better experience for people. To take this test is very simple. You just come into this tool, you just type in your URL and you click analyze. Only going to take a couple of seconds to process, and essentially we're going to get a green or red light to show if we've got a mobile friendly site. So I've got the green light here, it's all good, I've passed the test, and essentially you should really do the same, because you definitely want to get this fixed before you even go on to try to create content, etc., because a lot of people won't be able to access it easily, and you're going to get a lot of people leaving your website. So it's a very quick test. I'd make sure you go ahead and check that out. And that really wraps up the technical part of our SEO checklist. In our next lecture, we're really going to be getting into the keyword research process, starting with our keyword strategy. I'll see you there. In the last lecture, you completed point 5, which really finishes off the technical part of our SEO checklist. Now, in this lecture, we're moving on. We're going to focus on the keyword research process, and the outcome for you over the next few lectures will be to work through each of these points, and then you'll have your chosen keywords, which will be the centerpieces for the content that you were going to create down here. I've broken up the keyword research process into a few different points here. These 3 here are the main ones. But what I want to do in this lecture is really lay the foundation, get us in the right mindset for this whole process, and to also give you a strategy to attack this process so you're really going to get results. Let us start with the mindset then, and really developing a buyer persona. It's really important for you when you're going through this process to get into your buyer's shoes. You want to think about what are they actually typing into the search results. So we developed a buyer persona earlier in the course when we were looking at the marketing plan. So I would pull that information out now and look at that again with fresh eyes as we go into this process. Because the key thing you have to remember is your customers are not searching for their site. They're looking for valuable information to solve their problems. So you need to revisit what are their problems, what are they typing into the search results, and having a buyer persona is really that crucial first step to figuring that out. Now, as well as their age and demographics and goals, etc., I think one key thing that you can think about now that we're specifically focusing on keyword research is really the situation of your customer. So you really want to focus on your best customers, and I put together this quick chart to help explain that. What you might want to ask yourself is how far down the funnel is the customer, because the way that people search online is very different depending on what stage of the funnel that they're at. And this is really the buying funnel. Are they just becoming aware? Are they researching and comparing? Or are they buying? Because a customer who's searching something like what is marketing, they're really just becoming aware about marketing. They're at the top of the funnel. Whereas someone who types in something like Facebook ads course is probably right at the end of the funnel. They're ready to buy. And here are some of the other things that people might use when they're searching in each stage of the funnel. Essentially what I'm saying is that visitors who search for something like what is marketing are just going to be much higher up the search funnel. It's not that they're not valuable in any way, it's not that they aren't valuable, but just be aware that if you're going after a search term as broad as that, remember that they're right up at the top of the funnel. What you want to be thinking about from the start is getting those people who are at the end of the buying funnel, they're ready to buy, and think about the keywords and things that those type of customers are searching for, because they're really going to be your best customers. They're ready to buy, and if you can get at the top of the search results for those keywords, you're going to have much better conversions. With that said, let us move back now. That covers off really point number 6, and let's get into the keyword strategy. Because I think what you've got to remember is that it's very competitive out there. Even for something like, say, Facebook ads course, I can see that there are over 50 million search results for that term, which means that there's about 50 million web pages that are relevant to that. So you need to be strategic about the keywords that you really go after. Some keywords will be highly competitive. There'll be businesses that are going after them that have been set up for 10 years. You've really no chance to rank for those. You'll be wasting your time. So what you should really do is approach this strategically. You want to aim for less competitive keywords, and really you should be thinking about and going out right from the start is aiming to create content around body and long tail keywords. And to explain this, I have a quick slide here. So think about keywords in 3 different categories. First are the head keywords. These are one-word phrases like logistics, and they're called head keywords because they really represent the head of the graph here. Then there are body keywords. These are 2 to 3 word phrases. You can see that these are less competitive. They're moving down this side, and also the search frequency can be a little bit less. Because they're more specific, the search frequency is less, but they're also less competitive. And then out here we have the long tail keywords, something like logistics management software case studies. Obviously there's going to be less searches for that because it's less specific, but also it's much less competitive. So in terms of what you want to be thinking about that you can rank for, I'm never going to get to the top of the search results for something like marketing. It would just be a waste of time for me to even try that. You can see that at the start here, there are huge companies already ranking there. So this is where I'm going to be focusing on, down for these 2 to 3 word phrases or long tail keywords, and that's really what I recommend you do as well. And as well as the types of keywords that you should go after, you should aim to rank for a portfolio of keywords rather than one single term. So you're going to be creating a number of different blog posts around a lot of different terms. So think of it as a portfolio approach rather than as you're just going to be at the top of the search results for one term. So I hope that has given you the right mindset now to approach this whole process, and that you've got a strategy as well. You've got some focus in how you're really going to approach this. With that said, now in the next lecture we're really going to get started and get our hands dirty and brainstorm for keywords. So I'll see you there. Now that you have your buyer persona in mind and you understand the types of keywords you're really aiming to find, in this lecture we are going to cover point 8 on our 26-point checklist, which is to brainstorm for keyword ideas. What we're really going to do, and the outcome for you in this lecture, is to have 30 or 50 keywords that you can really potentially make content about. This is a great process for really understanding what your customers are really searching for online. The very first step is to make a copy of this keyword research template. So just click this open, and what you want to do is come up here and click File, Make a Copy. You need to make a copy if you want to edit this document. You do not need to request access to it. Once we've got that open, the next thing we're going to do is come over to wikipedia.com, and we're going to get some topic ideas and synonyms. We really want to fill out this column here. We want to start as broad as possible, and I'm going to run through this whole process with an example for myself as well to really bring it to life. So I encourage you to follow along with me. Then after we've kind of got our topic ideas, what we're going to do is generate the long tail keywords, as we talked about earlier here, using 3 automated tools, and this is really going to save you a ton of time and generate hundreds or even thousands of keywords very quickly. And then finally, we'll just come into Quora to really find those specific terms that maybe aren't showing up in these tools here. So let's get started. Coming to our document, we want to fill this topics column out, and we'll start really broad. We can come to Wikipedia. So what I suggest you do is just type in a very broad term for your niche. So for me, it's just going to be marketing. It's extremely high level. There's no way I'm going to rank for this term in Google. That's not what I'm interested in. What I'm interested in is really finding out the different topics. And now what you can see here are a list of all of the links to the different topics within this topic. So it's getting down a level, it's split down, but you can see a lot of these keywords here are very different. Customer orientation, marketing research, you mightn't have thought of these as being so connected. And so this is a really great way to think very laterally about how things are connected and refine really what you're going after. So let me come into types of marketing. Maybe I can have a look at digital marketing here. And let's have a look. We can see some of the topics here. So digital marketing activities for search engine optimization, search engine marketing, content marketing, influencer marketing. So I can just essentially take all of these terms. I'm going to paste these straight into my spreadsheet here. Now I'll have to do a bit of work to tidy that all up. But what I'm essentially seeing here straight away is within digital marketing, the area that I'm kind of focusing on, all of the different topics within that subtopic. So this is helping me narrow down really what I'm getting into. And then within each of these topics again, I can click off and now I can see all of the topics within this topic and really help break it down. So I can see a lot of the stuff here as well. These are all different topics. Even within search engine marketing, I can see all of this now. So I'm going to take a minute just to tidy this up and then I'll come right back. So now that I've got some of my big topics within digital marketing broken down here, I can start to go a level deeper and look for different keywords within each of these topics. So for example, let's just stick with SEO being the first example and really what we're working on now. If I come into the search engine optimization page for Wikipedia, now I can see a whole host of keywords that are related to this topic as well. So organic, natural, image search, local search, backlinks, mobile search, indexing, activities. These are all of the algorithms, keyword density. You can see anything that has a blue link here is really another page with a whole topic on that. I can even see some of the people who are key to this whole process, and loads and loads of keywords here. You can really spend a lot of time coming in here and finding ideas for topics and also keywords within those topics. So what I'm going to do is just separate this out a little bit. I'm going to just add in some space here. So all of the keywords that I can list in here are relevant to this topic, and you can just really split these out. So what I've done now is started to put some of those keywords for this subtopic here, basically that I've found on the page, and you can really go through and do as much of this as you really wanted. Recapping and returning to our keyword research process, then essentially what we've done already is we've made a copy. We've hacked Wikipedia for topic ideas. To build out our email list even further, what we can do is move on to step 2, which is to really generate a lot of long tail keywords using these 3 automated tools. So we're going to start with Google Autocomplete. And all you need to do is really come into Google, type in one of your keywords here. So let's just type in SEO. And you can see here that Google really gives you suggestions. It gives you autocomplete suggestions that you can put in here. So SEO training, SEO checklist, SEO marketing. These are all different terms that I can now add to my list as well. SEO training, SEO checklist. What else do we have here? Google SEO training. So essentially what Google is showing us here is that common searches related to that search that people often type in. So it's suggesting some of these terms as well. Let me just search for that as well. And if I come down to the bottom of the page, I can also see related searches as well. And what I can do is maybe just take all of these and pop these straight into my keyword list as well. So again, I'll have to do a little bit of tidying up on this, which I'll do now, but it's just another way to get a lot of ideas. Come into Google, put in one of those smaller subtopics, you'll get them in the search bar here, and also you can click just before it as well. Sometimes words come up before or after, and even if you put in, say, SEO training, you can get some ideas. SEO training course, SEO training course free, SEO training course. Okay, that's about it. But you can see that even if you you take something like SEO training, then you put in course, then you put in free, you can see that that is essentially a long tail keyword there as well. It's got more than 2 words, and that's something that you can add to your list as well. So have some fun with that, check that out, and also don't forget to have a look at the bottom of the page as well, because there's so many great ideas here, and you could spend so much time just going through this. It's really a process to remember, to find those keywords your competitors have overlooked. So the more time you spend doing this, the better results you're going to get. Now that we've looked at Wikipedia and Google Autocomplete, the next tool that we can use is called Uber Suggest. So I'm just going to click this open now, and a quick tip is if you really want to get the best out of this tool, I would install the Keyword Everywhere Chrome extension. It's shown here, and I've also got it listed down here as well. You can use this on Firefox as well, and the great thing about this tool, it'll give you the search volume data and the cost per click figures right in this tool, so you can really get a sense of how valuable these keywords are. So let me give you an example to really bring this to life for you. I'm just going to type in SEO again, and what this tool will really show me is essentially it's the same as Google Autocomplete, like on steroids. It'll just show you a massive amount of 360 keywords, whereas when I type this into Google Autocomplete, you could see that I maybe get 3 or 4 suggestions, and down the bottom then there might be a few suggestions as well. But this is giving me 360 keywords, so it's just a more focused tool to generate a lot of these. And this is the information that the Keyword Everywhere tool provides to you, the monthly search volume and the CPC, so that will not show up if you do not install the Keyword Everywhere tool. So I really recommend you do that so you can see this information straight away. And what you can use this tool for is, I can see, say, SEO services gets 27,000 searches a month. Now remember, this is global figures, and it has a cost per click of $16.63. We're going to get into this a little bit more in the next lecture, but that's just really an indication of how maybe valuable this keyword is. If within Google AdWords, advertisers are willing to spend $16.63 per click, well then obviously it's going to be a valuable keyword. So what you can do is maybe tick the relevant keywords. You can see some of these are not relevant at all. SEO meaning, if we come down here, SEO agency, analysis, audit, analyzer, articles, basics. You can see that 4,400, $6.88. So essentially best practices 2016. You can see that these are split up alphabetically, so it goes A, B, C, D, E. But essentially you can just have a huge amount of keywords generated very, very quickly. Course, checklist, again, I can see the search volume for that now. Copywriting. So you can select those one by one, or if what you want to do is you can really download them all here, and then you can essentially just copy and paste these into your own the document that I've prepared for you. So that could take a couple of seconds to load up, and essentially you can just take all of those keywords and paste them in, or work through them one by one as I've shown you, and really select the best ones. So once you've got that done, I would add the keywords from that tool into your list again, so you're really building up a list extremely quickly. So I've added a few of those in there, and you can see that I'm building up my list very, very quickly. Now what we can do is move on to the next tool. It's called Keyword Shitter. It's got a pretty unusual name, but it's actually a pretty cool tool. It's very similar to Ubersuggest, but it actually has a longer list of keywords. So for example, if I put in something like SEO checklist, which is quite a specific term, I can see here in Ubersuggest that it's going to give me some suggestions, but maybe not as much as what this other tool can do. So let's see how many it pulls up here. So I can see that I've got 135 keywords, which is fantastic, and I can take maybe the same one, put it into this tool as well, and this is going to build up a huge amount of keywords for me. So I'm going to let that run for a minute and come right back. So what I've got now is 135 here plus 166. It's not finished yet. So actually on this particular example they're quite close, but essentially this is an alternative to Ubersuggest, and I've used it before for other terms and found a lot of valuable keywords out of this tool. So what I'm going to do is maybe take these terms here, I'm going to add these to my list. So what we've done now is we've got our topic ideas, we've generated thousands of long tail keywords using these three tools. And one final thing that we might want to do before we leave this is really come into Quora. Now I think Quora is a really fantastic place to find keywords because people ask questions in a really very natural way in here. So if I type in something like SEO, I can come down and start to find different keywords. So best piece of advice, best resources for learning about SEO, best SEO companies. So that's maybe an article that you could write, best SEO companies. And I can see using my keyword everywhere tool that actually gets 1,600 searches per month. Moving down, okay, so best SEO tools. That's probably another keyword that I could put in, best SEO tools or something similar to that. 6,600 a month. So remember, this is the keyword everywhere tool. I'd really recommend you get that installed. We installed it right at the start of the course, but this will show you as here in the search bar, the search volume, as well as in the other tools like Ubersuggest that I showed you as well. So Quora can be fantastic. Best SEO plugins for WordPress. You can see it's very natural language, and these are even blog post titles that you could just take and reuse. So I'd encourage you to come in here as well, and that can really help build up your list even further. To recap then, in this lecture we have Brainstorm for keyword ideas, and using this worksheet you can see already that I've got 10 different topic ideas that I got from Wikipedia, and also using those 3 free tools now I have about 45 keywords just for one topic, and these are kind of in the long tail part of the graph. They are going to be less competitive, and this is really the type of keywords that we're going after. So you can see that that process is very quick in a very short space of time to generate a lot of keywords. So I would really recommend you go ahead and do that now, because in the next lecture we're going to start to cut down this list, really using that search volume data and also the cost per click data. So I'll see you there. In the last lecture you brainstormed for keyword ideas and put together a list of keywords here in your keyword research template. Now what we want to do in this lecture is look at point 9 on our checklist, which is really to narrow down your keyword list. We want to get one step closer to the end of the process here, which is to really have your chosen keywords, which will be the centerpieces of your content. So how do you start to cut down this list and identify those keywords? Well, what we can really do is really assess the keywords on two criteria. One is the search volume. So how many searches per month in Google do the keywords get? That'll help us identify which of these topics are the most popular, and also which of these keywords are the most popular, because we want to create content where there's interest. The thing what we don't want to happen is spend a lot of time writing something, figuring out that actually only 10 people a month search for that. We'd be much better off investing the same amount of time and energy into a keyword that maybe gets 1,000 searches per month. Search volume then is the first thing that we're going to look at, and we're also going to assess really the commercial intent, the business value of certain keywords. And we can do that using cost per click data as a guide. I'm really going to explain how we're going to do that with a real example. So we can use two different tools to find out this information: the Google Keyword Planner here and the Google Everywhere Chrome extension. Let me get started with the Google Keyword Planner. Essentially, the process is going to be the exact same. We just take our list of keywords, pop it in here, and we're going to get our search volume and cost per click data. Now, the Google Keyword Planner tool is actually a tool that is part of Google AdWords. Google AdWords is the platform, the advertising platform of Google. So people use this tool, advertisers really use this tool to identify the search volume and cost per click data of keywords, but for us, we can use the same information to help inform our SEO decisions. Now, once you arrive into the Google Keyword Planner tool, you'll be faced with this particular screen here. Now, one thing to note is when you do sign up to Google AdWords, you can do it with a Gmail account. It's absolutely free to do. You may see that you are being asked to set up a campaign. You don't need to do that. You can actually skip through that process. There's like a button at the top of the button to do that. And then you want to be really coming into Tools and Keyword Planner. If you have any trouble with that at all, don't worry so much, because we can do essentially the same thing in this Keyword Everywhere extension tool. So that's an alternative. One thing that I did want to say is you can use the Keyword Planner tool actually as a brainstorming tool as well. So we're going to get the search volume here in this drop down, but we can use it for brainstorming as well. Essentially the exact same way. You can just type in the keyword and click Get Ideas here. And you'll get a whole list of similar suggestions that we saw before. The reason that I didn't want to start your keyword brainstorming here is that you can see a lot of the terms are very closely related. And so it's more natural to maybe start in something like Wikipedia, where you can really get broad, see the broad connected categories, because a lot of people, everybody's essentially doing their brainstorming here, looking at the same keywords. So you have an advantage if you start outside of this tool. With that said, let us come down to the search volume here. All we're going to do is really copy our list of keywords that we've already got done, paste those in. We can also take our list of topics as well. I'm just going to paste these in because I want to get a sense of the topics that I have, which is the most popular, where should I maybe focus my attention. I'm just going to edit this slightly because this will show you the search volume for the exact term. So nobody's going to be searching for search engine optimization in brackets SEO. So I just want to split that out. And also the same thing with SEM. So once I've got my list of keywords there, now I've got a couple of targeting options here. The main one is probably the location. If you're a business that only serves, say, a particular country, you can set that up. For example, if I only had a products shipped to the United States and I only want to look for the search volume there, I can just add that in and click save. You can see that that's now going to only show me the search volume data for this particular country. Now, as I have a more of a global business, customers can come from everywhere. I'm just going to leave that off. So remove that and then click save. Now I'm going to get the search volume. What I can see here now is a list of the keywords, the average monthly searches, and also the suggested bid, which is essentially that cost per click data. What I can do is maybe organize this list top to bottom in terms of the average monthly searches, and to do that I can just click on this column here. Now, no surprise for me that I can see out of all of the topics that search engine optimization is essentially the biggest one, and after that we move down to some of the social media marketing, email marketing, etc. So that can give you a very high level view of, okay, where's the interest between my different topics. Now, as we move down the list, I guess where we want to focus most of our attention is identifying those longer tail keywords that we found and seeing the difference between those. And I think the range you want to stick with was maybe between 500 searches per month and maybe 2,000, 2,500. I think they aren't going to be as competitive, but they're going to deliver not enough search volume. Now I can see that some of my list is being hidden here, so I might extend this out to 50 rows and I can start to see it. So it's good for me to know something like SEO checklist, 2,900 searches per month. I think that's kind of within my range. Even moving a little bit further down, campaign marketing, SEO audit checklist, kind of similar, 480 searches a month. So these are keywords that I'm starting to like. And what I can see as well is that advertisers are paying for these keywords. So if advertisers are paying $5.82 or euros cents per click, then I know this is a valuable keyword for my business. I can sort this list by what advertisers are paying for it. And I can see that some of the most valuable terms, no surprise, something like SEO agency, because people have their wallets out there ready to buy when they're typing in a term like that into Google. Remember the buyer funnel that we looked at? These guys are right at the bottom, they're ready to spend. Whereas if I look at the least valuable terms here, something like local search, webmasters, free course, anybody who types in a free course is not going to want to buy a course, so advertisers are not really spending on that. And something like local search, you can even type any keywords into Google if you're not quite sure what they're talking about. So local search, you can see there is one ad there for it, so somebody's spending money on that. They're spending, let's see, 78 cents. But you can see a lot of it is quite general and broad, and maybe those people are not quite far down the buyer funnel. Essentially, you want to assess then the keywords based on average monthly searches and suggested bids. And you can do essentially the exact same thing with the Keyword Everywhere Chrome extension. You take the same list. What you can do is really, instead of pasting it into the Google Keyword Planner, you just click on the icon here in your browser. You can see that there is a place to paste in the keywords. You can take the keywords from your list, copy those in and paste those in, and you can get the search volume and cost per click. Now, the one caveat with this tool is that it doesn't do the location targeting as well. You can change your settings, and I'll show you how to do that, but it only really shows search volume for these different countries for the moment. I think they're adding a lot every single time, but the targeting is much better in the Google Keyword Planner tool. You can narrow it down to specific cities even. So that's essentially the one caveat that there is between the tools. So have a look at those two different tools. The keywords that I'm starting to like now are these ones within the 500, the range, the couple that I pointed out there. So what I'm going to do is essentially come to my checklist here. I can take the information straight from here, so I'm actually just going to copy this back in. And essentially I want to add this information in here. So let me take this, copy this, paste those in there, get the search volume. I can copy all of these here, 41 rows. I can just paste this back in here. And now you can see I've got the search volume, etc. Delete this row, I don't need it. And I can start to look at the keywords that I particularly like. So looking at some of them, I'm just going to highlight some of these here. I'm actually going to highlight the, there we go, easier to see. Best practices, That's kind of an interesting one. Checklist 2016, interesting for websites. So there might be some discrepancy between these tools in terms of search volumes. I think I saw as 30 in the keyword planner. These tools aren't 100% accurate. None of them are. You can really use them as a guideline. SEO audit checklist is another one I like. So now I'm starting to narrow down my list based on the search volume, and I suggest you do the same. You can just really highlight them here in your keyword research template. Next up, we're going to move to the final step in our keyword research process, choosing our target keywords. So I'll see you there. In the last lecture, we narrowed down your keyword list using search volume and cost per click data as a guide. In this lecture, we're actually going to finalize the keyword research process. We're going to choose your target keywords. These are the keywords that will then be the centerpiece for your content that we start making in the next section. So this is important. We need to look at the competition. Who is already ranking on the first page of Google for that term, and how strong are they? So what I want to do is start really just with a visual check, keep it very simple. So what you can do is take some of the keywords that you like, just start typing them into Google, and really you want to see how strong the competition is. So one thing that you can do is start to look at their domain names. Or do you recognize these guys? I can see here that a lot of these guys are well-established big companies, but that's normal, I think, for SEO. It's a very competitive space, and I really knew that going into this. There's professionals doing this day in and day out, so no surprise for me that there's a lot of competition here. Now, one other thing you might want to look for is actually click into these search results and see how high quality the posts are. Is there anything that you could really improve here? Could you make this 5 times, 10 times better? Or have they covered pretty much everything? And that's a quick assessment that you can do, just really looking at how strong the competitors are, plus the content as well. If you see here a lot of content that isn't really relevant, you can see all the way down the page there's SEO basics. It seems to be very relevant stuff. Then you can see, okay, this keyword, there's a bit of opportunity here. So cycle through a lot of your keywords, and maybe you can identify which ones have less competition just on a visual check than others. Now, as well as that, what you can do is actually download a Mozbar Chrome extension. This is just going to give us more information on our competitors and help us decide how strong those competitors are. So once you've got that downloaded, it's very easy to install. You'll see it pop up in your Chrome browser here. And what I can maybe do is look at another keyword here. I can just toggle this on, and now you can see it brings up a host of information that I can see for free. And in particular, the information you're going to see is here is page authority and domain authority. Now you might remember that way back at the start of the course in the overview of SEO, I showed you that there's really 2 key factors to getting to the top of the search results. One is relevance, and the other is authority, and that Google measures that authority really by the number of links that you have pointing to the page. So page authority really represents that number of links, and I can see that a lot of the pages here on the first page of Google are quite strong. So anything that's like 15, 20, those pages I think are easily going to be easy to beat. However, I can see that quite a lot of these are quite competitive. Now, as well as that, as well as the page authority, another thing you might want to look at is domain authority. So domain authority is really just an aggregate of all of the pages on their website. How strong really are those? Essentially, the lower these numbers are, the less competitive this keyword is going to be. So you can cycle through a couple of keywords, really looking at visually and then using this information to help you find where that white space is, where there's less competitive terms. Now, as well as that, I think keep in mind that you want to think about what's going to be valuable to your audience. So I'm going to actually pick the keyword SEO checklist, even though it's very competitive. I know I'm not going to be able to rank for that quickly. I've got a brand new site that has 0 domain authority. It's going to take a long time for me to get to the top of the search results, but I think that, as you can see, this is a keyword that is going to be beneficial for you in this course. And I have looked through some of the keyword or the checklists here. I think a lot of them don't explain why you need to do these steps, and that's a value add that I can add in. The final point that I want to make is, look, think about is what is going to be valuable to your audience. It can be easy to get caught up in all of this data and information, and hard to see where the opportunities are, but just think about what is going to be valuable to your audience. Don't think about ranking like in the next week or two. It could take you a long time to get there. And so I'm picking this topic because it's valuable. There's good search volume. I can see also that a lot of people have linked to these different results. So I know there's a lot of interest, and there's also great potential for me to get links for this particular topic. It's valuable immediately to people in this course. I can link to it from other places like Quora, etc., and send traffic through to it. So that is it. That is the keyword research process. We've covered a huge amount, I think, in a short space of time. And now that you have your chosen keyword, the next thing that we want to do is actually teach you the process about how to create content around that keyword. We're really going to be taking off relevancy. How do you make a piece of content that's very relevant to the keyword, that Google can understand, okay, this page is about that keyword, and that's going to give you a big boost in terms of ranking for that particular keyword. So I'm going to wrap it up there. Take time to visually check and use the Moz bar about your keyword competition, and then we're moving on to the next step to really You're very welcome back to the course. In the last lecture, we finished off on our keyword research process. You now have your chosen keywords, which will be the centerpieces for your content. So what we need to do now is actually create content around those keywords. And in this lecture, we're going to get started on that process and really move into the on-page SEO section of this checklist. This is the checklist that you will use every time you write a new blog post or create a new piece of content, because this covers on all of the things that you should have on your page to make sure that it's optimized and ready for the search engines. In this lecture, we're going to cover the first 3 points, and then the subsequent lectures, we're going to be working through them. So by the end of this next few lectures, by the end of this part of the checklist, you will have a perfectly optimized, SEO optimized piece of content. First thing we need to do then is actually come into our website builder and create a new post. So inside WordPress here, it's just posts, add new. It'll be very similar on any other website builder that you have. And this is where we're really going to implement every single one of these steps. Now I have my Yoast SEO plugin installed here as well. If you have a WordPress site, make sure you have this set up before we get started on this. I installed it a couple of lectures ago, but this will really help you out and remind you to complete all of these 11 steps every single time. If you don't have a WordPress site, don't worry, I've written all of the points here anyway. First thing we want to do is really pick one keyword per page, and the Yoast SEO plugin is a great reminder for this. It shows you focus keyword, so I'm going to pop that in right there, SEO checklist. And essentially what I'm going to do as an example here is rebuild this post I've already made. You're looking at a post here that has followed exactly these 11 steps, but I'm going to rebuild it from the start so you can understand the process and not just the end result. But this is an example that you can come back to again and again and have a look at. Now, after I've picked my focus keyword, what I need to really do is write the title tag. And the title tag is really what appears in these search results here. So we looked at this before. This is the title tag here. This is the title of your blog post, the title of your page. It's an extremely important indicator to Google what your whole blog post is about or page is about. And so you really want to spend a bit of time optimizing this. If you do nothing else from this list, accept this, well, you'd still be doing one of the most important things. So make sure you get this done at the very, very minimum. So the thing that you want to think about is every page of your website should have a unique title tag. Now remember, earlier in the course we optimized your homepage title tag. You want to do essentially the same process here for each blog post. And preferably you want to start with a relevant keyword. You want to start with your focus keyword. So I can edit my title tag here inside Yoast and get a preview of it. You can also just add it in up here as well. But I'm going to do the work down here. And I'm going to start typing it in. So SEO checklist. It's best if you can start your post with really the keyword that you're going after. Now you don't have to do that exactly. You can see a lot of these search results haven't started with it exactly, but that's best practice to really start with your focus keyword. Now another thing that you can do to pick up some more searches is add in small modifiers like best, 2016, etc. And you can see that here that people have added these 2016, etc. in here because a lot of people do search for that. They search for checklists, templates, tools, 2016. If there is something like this that would often get updated or need to be updated, you know, people will type in small little modifiers like the date. So you can add that in if you want. And I've actually added that in my title here. If you'll notice, I've just put it at the end. So potentially I can pick up some additional searches for that term if someone types in SEO checklist. But really as well, just as an indication that this is up to date and is up to date to the other ones in the search results. So now I've got my keyword in there. What else do I need to do? Well, I need to keep it at a certain length as well. You've got a limit to how long your title tag can be. It can really be 55 characters or less. Otherwise, it'll appear truncated in the search results. Let me give you an example of this. I'm just going to type in home insurance. I want to show you about what it looks like if it's truncated. So I saw an example here. Where was it? This is what it looks like if your title tag is too long. It shows the title tag, but then it's cut off at the end and you can see the ... Essentially the title tag here is too long. This company could probably shorten it up a little bit to have the full message within the 55 characters. I think it just looks a little bit more professional, and make sure that you're communicating your message in the frame that you have. Inside WordPress, it'll show you here the exact length that you have. For example, the green is like the good area, and if you start to put in more than that, it turns to red. So you really want to avoid that there. What do you put in here then? I would suggest you really look at the title tags for your competitors as well. Look at what they've done, and you have to think about how can you really stand out. So there are a number of other checklists for me here, 29 points, 41 points, 40 points. So obviously I don't have the longest checklist. I did that on purpose. I want to keep it pretty simple. So I can't compete on the number of points. I don't think that'd be a good idea. So I'm going to try and make it more specific to who this checklist is actually for. And what I'm going to say is SEO checklist for new websites. I actually noticed earlier that this is one of these search terms that I highlighted. It gets 30 searches a month. So I could potentially, after a while, start to rank for this term initially, and then after a much longer time, rank for the keyword SEO checklist. So I can pop that in because it's very relevant to my audience. I think a lot of the people who will be taking this course and looking at the checklist will be brand new websites or looking at it again. So I can just take that keyword, and now I'm really going to be ranking for the longer tail version of this keyword, which is great as well. One other thing I noticed as well, that SEO audit checklist gets 480 searches a month, and so I don't have that exact term in my title, but I can just add this in as well, SEO audits, and people really know that not only can they use this checklist for new websites, but they could also use it for SEO audits as well. So that is really the thinking behind the title that I wrote. I would suggest you follow that process as well. Follow these rules for the title tag, and really have a look at your competitors and think about how you can stand out in the search results, because remember, this is what the end and this is what the process is all going to look like at the end. If everything's stacked up here and somebody's making a decision, you want to try and have a title tag that really jumps out. Now after that, let's look at the URLs. The URL is really the URL for the page, and you can see here mine is just / SEO checklist. So how did I actually set that up? Well, inside SEO Yoast here, you can actually just set this, and you can see how this is going to appear. Very easy to do here. I think what you really want to avoid are URLs that look something like this. Oh yeah, here we go. You know, /p equals 123. Now, you want to make your URLs really human readable, and also if you're trying to make it easy for people to remember / SEO checklist, it's easy to know how to get to the page very, very quickly. So you want to keep these URLs as short as possible. By default, what will happen is your whole title will be put into your URL here, but you can just shorten it down to the main keyword, so you can make it easy for people to really get there and remember it. Now I know I have quite a long domain, but if you have a shorter domain and you just say / whatever it is, you can almost say that to people and they will know where to go. So what we have done is really cover off on the first 2 points there. I think the final thing to mention is separate your keywords in your URL with hyphens. You never want to have it like this with underscores, because Google will read that all as one word, whereas Google will read this as separate words. So that's just one final point on that. Make sure that's done there. Alright, so we've already got through one of the major parts, really, getting your title and URL and having one focus keyword. I'm going to wrap this up now, and in the next lecture we're going to focus on meta descriptions. This is what really appears here in these search results, and getting it right can massively boost your click-through rates. In the last lecture, we completed the first 3 points of our on-page SEO checklist, and in this lecture we're really moving on to point 14 here and looking at how to skyrocket your click-through rate with meta descriptions. Meta descriptions are this little preview of the page that appear here in these search results. It's actually called a search snippet, and the meta description is the way that you set that up. You can see that this is an important part of the search results. You just got the title, the URL, which we already covered, and this is your last opportunity to really grab people's attention and get them to click through. It doesn't have a big SEO impact. Google don't look at this as much, but it's a big driver of people to getting them to click through. If you can grab their attention here, there's a great chance they're going to click through. It's a great opportunity for you to increase your click-through rate. Let us have a look at the best practices then. You really want to highlight the benefit of your post or product compared to competitors who already appear in these search results. What I would suggest you do is have a look for all of the meta descriptions, maybe for the first 3 pages of Google for your particular keyword. You want to read them all, get a sense of what's in there. Do they look exciting? Do they get you to want to click through? You can take the best parts from every single one of them and just create your own meta description as well. Or if you see that there's something that isn't as obvious, that should be more obvious, you can throw that in as well. What else do we have to think about? Once again, there is a length that we have to follow. It should be 160 characters or less, otherwise they'll appear truncated. And you can see here a lot of the ones are set. This is an example where it's a little bit too long. It's getting cut off there, so that could potentially be shortened up. So what I would recommend is really look at the other ones there. I'm going to show you the meta description that I've written for this page. You can't see it on the page, you only see it in these search results, but if I open up the page itself, you can see I've got it here. So I'm trying to start with an action word, follow these 26 SEO best practices plus the benefit to increase web traffic conversions and revenue. So not only just like what's contained in here, but also what is the benefit of all of that. And now I've also tried to highlight the different parts of this checklist. It covers technical, keyword research, on page, and more, which when I looked through some other examples here wasn't as obvious. It was 14 points, but 14 points covering what? When I clicked through, I found that actually it only covers one part of SEO. It doesn't cover really the other parts. So I'm trying to make it obvious that I'm covering a lot in one checklist here. I'm trying to bring that right to the front so people see that and get the attention of it. That wraps up optimizing our meta descriptions. Now we're on to the next step, step 15, to re-optimize your images in your blog post for the Google image search results. This is going to really help you get more traffic from the search engine. In the last lecture, we optimized your meta descriptions, and in this lecture, we're moving on to point number 15. You can see we're really flying through them pretty quickly now. And what we're going to do in this lecture is really optimize any images in your blog post for these search results. You can see here that I've included an image at the top of my blog post. I think it looks professional, helps it have that visual impact right from the start. I've left out images in the checklist on purpose because I just want people focusing on the points, but I would recommend that throughout your blog post, particularly if it's quite a long one, that you have images really breaking up the materials to make it more visually appealing. And what I would recommend you use in order to make your images is this tool called canva.com. It's free to use. It's an alternative to maybe using stock photos. You can actually create designs and presentations here, and you can see that I've created this one here. So potentially what you can do is come in here, click on create a design. You can come down here, they have the dimensions for a blog title or a blog image here. The great thing about this tool as well is that they have lots of templates that you can just use straight away, and they show up in the sidebar here. So you can really just copy and paste these in. A lot of these are free here, you can see it, and some of the other ones they have, if you see the X on the back here, that means that you will have to pay maybe $1 every time you want to use that image. But there's really a lot of great examples you can use. You can see that you don't have to use maybe that image, you can just use the background, and you could maybe drag that in. You can add text in here very easily. You can add different elements and shapes in here as well. So you can very, very quickly add in an image. They even have icons you can use. All around, it's just an absolutely great tool to use, very easy to resize. Essentially, it's like a much easier version of something like Photoshop. That is how you can create these images. Once you've got your designs done, what you'll want to do is actually download them. Now you'll see here that when you go to download them, you have a couple of options. I would pick the JPEG option here, because you want to have a small image size in terms of its quality, so that it's not going to slow down your web page too much. And you can see that it's very easy to download them here, and essentially it's going to just download into your download section here. What I would recommend is that when you download them, what you might see is that the title says untitled design. What I would really recommend that you do is rename that with your keywords. So if you've got a design, here we go. First thing that I want to do is maybe rename it from my keywords. So I'm just going to imagine I created this, and I'm going to just call it SEO checklist. Now this is the same process that I did with the one that I'm actually using. And then once you have the image that you want, that you've created in WordPress, you can add media here, you can upload the files, you can just drag and drop the file in there, and then you were going to see that you have an option here to add in some other pieces of information. And this is the really important part here, the alt text. This is really what Google will look at to see what your image is about. And I'm going to type this in SEO checklist here. And then I could just insert this into my post. And you can resize it to whatever size that you want. And that's the process. It's very, very simple. You can create these images yourself in Canva, or you can just buy stock photos. And the important thing is to name the file with the keyword in it and then add the alt text in as well. So that was really it. It's very simple. Just include your target keyword in the file name and in that alt text. For something like SEO checklist, I don't think too many people will be checking the Google image search results for that. But for any other images that might be relevant, and all your blog posts, is just really best practice to follow these steps. So that was very quick. I recommend you add those images to visually break up your content. I'm going to wrap it up there, and I'll see you in the next lecture where we're really going to cover a lot of these points and talk about how to actually write the copy and the words on the page for your blog post. In the last lecture, we optimized your images for these search results, and now in this lecture, we're going to cover off the remaining points in the on-page part of your SEO checklist. Starting off with reducing bounce rates, you really want to make your topic clear right from the start. So it's suggested that you include your keyword in the first 100 words of your articles, and you can see that I've done that here, this SEO checklist. I'm making it very clear right from the start what this point is really, or what this article is really about. The next thing that you can do after that is really give your SEO a boost with heading tags. Include your keyword once in a H2 or a H3 subheading. You can see that I've actually done that a few different times here. I've got a technical SEO checklist, so the keyword is there, SEO checklist. I've got it down here, SEO checklist again. So those are my heading tags. They're very easy to make. Inside WordPress, if you're using WordPress, I can just write my heading tag here on page SEO checklist, and then I can change it to be a H2 heading tag there, and that's as simple as that. Just include that there. I think it helps to really break up your content into different sections. Like the images, you want to break up your content, make it easy and scannable for people, and allow them to really get through the content quickly. So already we've covered off on the first 2 points there. Now including outbound links, at least 2 outbound links to authority sites. These should be popular blogs, news sites, EDUs, government resources, etc. in every piece of content that you publish. Essentially what you want to show Google here is that you're in good company. You're referencing already established pieces of content or sites. So you can see here that I've got a ton of links here to really a lot of different tools and resources, and these are all things that are going to be helpful and relevant for my audience. So I've covered off on that there. Now the next thing is internal links, 2 to 3 internal links to articles when you publish a new one. So I've done this here. Moving back up to the buyer persona, I've linked back to an article I've written that covers the marketing plan template. It covers buyer persona. There's one thing you'll notice there that I've done wrong, and you can see that when it links out, it brings them directly to that page. I want them to maybe open that page, but I want them to remain on this page. So whenever you're doing external or internal links, you want to make sure that when they click on the link, it opens in a new tab. This is very easy to edit as well. You can just come in, find my buyer persona link here, click on it, click on the little gear icon. I want to make sure that opens up in a new tab, and then I'm just going to save that there. As simple as that. Now that has been updated, and you can see when I click on it now, it opens up in a new tab rather than getting me to leave the page. So that's an important point for your internal and external links to do that. Another thing now, point number 20 is to publish longer content. You want to make your blog post at least 300 words. This one here is about 1,000 words, and even longer for more competitive keywords. Another thing you want to do, point number 21, is to add prominent social sharing buttons. Now this is a brand new article, nobody's seen it, but you really want to be able, if people like this, to share it out, and that really helps it to spread and get into other people's hands. So if you do not have social sharing buttons, one that I would maybe recommend is Dig here. There's loads of different social sharing buttons that you can choose from and compare, but this is just one that you could potentially use. Now the final thing is, you can really double check everything. I've got an SEO audit tool here that you can use. All you need to do is put in your URL, put in your keyword, and it'll test everything. I think this is particularly useful if you do not have a WordPress site. A lot of these checks will be done in the SEO audit or the SEO Yoast tool rather. So that is a very handy tool you can just use to double check anything. It'll scan your page and tell you how you're doing on all of these different areas. So that really wraps up the on-page SEO checklist. I know it looked like quite a big list, but actually it's very easy to get through the content quickly. That is a process that you'll want to use again and again, so come back here and really check that before you publish your next blog post, or even have a look at this checklist, recapping on what work you've already done to see if you can improve it slightly. So that wraps up the on-page SEO checklist. Now we're moving on to link building. Very important part of SEO. Those links really show Google that you're an authority on the topic, so we're going to get into really looking at your link building strategy, your whole approach to it, and then a couple of strategies and techniques to get more links to your new content. So I'll see you in the next lecture. In the last lecture, you finished off on the on-page part of our SEO checklist. Now in this lecture, we're moving on to the link building part of our SEO checklist. This is a very important part of SEO, and to remind you what a link is, it's really, when we talked about in the overview of SEO at the start of the course, we said that relevance is a key factor, a key way that Google determines who gets to the top of these search results. It's no coincidence that the keyword here features in the title, the URL, and the description. Relevance is a key factor. However, another way that Google determines really the ranking order of these search results is by looking at authority. They really want to put the best content at the top of the search results, and the way that they determine that is through backlinks. They look at how many people are linking to this web page, because if people are linking to it, then it must be great, and as a result they rank you a lot higher. The way that we can look at backlinks is using this same Mozbar Chrome extension tool that we looked to really assess the page authority and domain authority when we were looking and doing our keyword research. And what we can see also in this tool here now are the number of links from other sites around the internet pointing back to this individual web page. This is what we really want to look at now. And in this lecture, what I really want to do is cover off on these first 2 points. And we can really analyze our competitors' backlinks, and that can really give us a sense of how can we create similar backlinks for the content that we have just created, so that Google can also see that we're an authority around that keyword, and that they'll rank us much higher in these search results. To start analyzing your competitors' backlinks and getting ideas for how you can generate backlinks, it's very easy. You just come into the search results and you can click on the links here. What this will open up is the Open Site Explorer, and now I have a full list of the links for this page. Now I might have not access to all of them because we're using the free version of this tool, but you can get a lot of great information here. And to really get an example of a backlink here and to understand really what it looks like in real life, I'm just going to click through to one of the results here, and similar to the example I showed you in the overview to SEO, right down the bottom of the page here, It's essentially just a link back to the web page. That's the one that we're opening up. Now what you can see, if you're trying to understand, okay, how did that person get that backlink? Well, you can see that this is posted by the person who owns the web page. So this is a guest post. And essentially what you might be noting down now is, okay, this website, socialmediatoday.com, I can see that they have allowed this person to do a guest post. Potentially that is something that I can do as well. So they have built a backlink this way. Now, maybe that's something that I can do as well. What you should also be considering when you're looking at these different opportunities and how your competitors have built their backlinks is really the power of those backlinks. Because one thing I want you to understand is that not all backlinks are created equal. Your goal should be to earn do follow backlinks. So let me take a moment to explain this first off. Google really recognizes two types of links: do follow and no follow backlinks. Any links that are posted on social media, in blog comments, generally by default are all no follow, meaning that they do not pass any SEO value through to them. And the reason that Google invented those is really just to avoid spam. A lot of people, it's very easy to game the system if you can just pump out links on social media. So what I can see here is this link that we just looked at is actually a no follow link. And if I open up the page as well, I can see view, come to developer, view source. This shows me the code of the page. I can look at SEO checklist and I can see that that's a no follow link. That's just a part of the code there. Now you don't need to do this every single time. I'm just showing you really what it looks like. And so what you might be thinking is, when you look at this particular link opportunity, if you wanted to recreate it, just know that this won't have SEO power. It could be great for bringing in traffic, but it won't help you from an SEO perspective. So note that down when you're going through the different link opportunities, that these can be great ways to generate traffic, but not necessarily SEO power. And one thing that you can do is actually come up to the link type and look at the only follow links, and these are the links that will give you the SEO power. So that's the first thing that we've looked at. Your goal should be to earn those really do follow links if you want to get that authority boost from the link. Now the other thing is that backlinks are not created equal for another reason. Backlinks from high ranking pages in your niche will actually have more SEO power than backlinks from a brand new website that Google doesn't see any authority in. So what we can see here in the tool is, for each of these backlinks here, the pages that they're coming for, we can see the page authority and domain authority as well. So what you want to be looking for is, when you're looking at the link opportunities, you want to try and get it from the websites that have the highest page authority and domain authority. And you can even, I think, sort the list, maybe not in this version, by this way. So if you're trying to earn backlinks, you should really try and get them from high authority sites in your niche as well, because Google says, well, this person has a lot of authority. If they're recommending that person, well, then I'm going to value that much more than a website that was just set up yesterday and that has no authority. So that's the second thing that you need to really focus on when you're going through these different opportunities. As well as using this Open Site Explorer tool, there are some other tools that you can use, but essentially the process is the same. You maybe want to come in not just for one particular search result, but you might want to come into even all of the results on the first page. You want to understand how they are getting their backlinks, and in particular, how are they getting their do follow backlinks from high authority sites? Are they guest posting? What was the context in which they were referenced? What was the context in which they were linked? And you can really then see what has worked, and you'll be able to replicate that for yourself. Another tool that you can use as well as this Moz.com tool is the Ahrefs tool that we have looked at before, which will essentially give you a lot of the same information, but because you're using the free version of these tools, you might be able to pick up more information if you use as many as possible. I've also linked off to Majestic SEO, which does a very similar thing. You can see all the backlinks for the page. And then finally, you might want to revisit the SimilarWeb tool that we looked at before. Now, this actually won't show you backlinks for an individual page, etc. It'll show you more information on a website. But you can maybe come in and take an example from the search results, and just, if you want to get a sense of, in general, where are they getting their traffic from, not specifically backlinks, but just at a higher level, where is their audience from, and where do they get their traffic across the different sources. So I think taking a step back, maybe look at some of their top referring sites, you can get a sense of, again, how your competitor is succeeding, and you can use all of these tools to really uncover the marketing strategies that you can really replicate. In the next lecture then, I'm going to show you that after you've done this analysis, what might be the practical steps for you to move forward and build those links.